Hi everyone, this is Josh Kulp. We are learning Daf Shevui. We are on Masechet Gittin, and we are on Daf Ayin Tet. And in the end of this Daf, there is a very important Mishnah that is a machloket, a dispute between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai says that a man can use an old get to divorce his wife, and Beit Hillel says that he cannot. And what is an old get? Anytime they were secluded after he wrote the get for her. In other words, Beit Shammai would basically say a man can write a get, be secluded with his wife, and then give it to her. And we're not concerned, maybe he annulled the get, maybe they had relations, and therefore, right, once you write the get, he's not supposed to have relations with her. He could mentally annul the get, and therefore the get is invalid. Beit Shammai does not hold that, and Beit Hillel does. The Gemara in the Bavli explains that Beit Hillel has what's called a gzeira, a decree, which means we forbid something lest something else happen. So Beit Hillel says there's a gzeira, right, a decree, a preventative measure, if you want, a fence around the Torah, lest people would come to say that he gave her the get and then the child was born, which means the child was born not when they were married, or they at least had relations, certainly after they were done being married, after the marriage was over. Because after all, he could write the get, not give it to her for a long time. Maybe they're secluded, maybe they have some children, and then give her the get. The date on the get will be much earlier, and people will think that the child was born after the get was given. And Beit Shammai doesn't have that concern. This, I think, is a very good illustration of the Babylonian Talmud explaining a lot of things in the Mishnah based on a gzeira. We prohibit X lest Y come to happen. It is a very common way of reading the Mishnah in the Bavli. But interestingly, in the Yerushalmi, there's a completely different interpretation. I think I included this in my interpretation on the sheet, that Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel later on in the Masechet disagree about the grounds for divorce. Beit Shammai says a husband can divorce his wife only if he suspects her of adultery. And Beit Hillel says basically a husband can divorce his wife for any reason, even if she did something that he didn't like, he can divorce her. We'll learn that Mishnah later on. I don't want to speak just about that Mishnah, but that Mishnah, according to the Yerushalmi, correlates with our Mishnah. Beit Shammai would say, we're not concerned. If a husband's going to divorce his wife, it's got to be for a very good reason. He suspects her of adultery. And therefore, we're not concerned that once he writes the get, he's going to be appeased with her, because that's a big issue, and we don't have that concern. Right? It's not saying that it could never happen. It's just that we don't suspect that would happen. And Beit Hillel, of course, holds that a husband can divorce his wife for any old reason. And as human beings, we tend to get angry and then forgive relatively easily. At least that's a common trait. And the concern is he'll write the get and then basically make up with her. And that get really should be annulled, but then he might come to use it later on, and it's really not a valid get. And that's the concern for Beit Hillel. Again, the important thing is that the Yerushalmi ties this dispute between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel into the dispute about the grounds for divorce. The higher the demand are to have justified grounds for divorce, the less likely the couple is going to be reconciled. That's Beit Shammai, and Beit Hillel gives very low demands for grounds for divorce, and therefore there's a much greater chance for them to be reconciled. And this is a good case where the Yerushalmi gives something like a little bit more of a substantive reason, but not as much of the technical reason, the gzeira, lest something else come to occur that happens in the Bavli.